Hi, pre-algebra. Hey, it's Miss Woodard here. It is Monday, September 14th, and I just want to start off and say we did an amazing job on that Zoom. I appreciate everybody taking some time and coming in and just kind of laying down that baseline framework of what to expect this year. Hey, I disabled chat feature. I love that you guys are all hungry, and I saw the chat kind of going on the side. It's a great way for you guys to actually get a chance to talk and like meet with each other, but my time with you is only going to be about 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep that very focused on math. Maybe we can just do some fun Zooms where we get to, do some of those chats and just talk to each other about other things at a different time. But when they're math oriented, expect that chat's going to be disabled. I had to record today's lesson because this is not a 1, 2, 3 day in my building. This is a periods 4, 5, 6 day. So I'm recording and pushing this out to you in hopes that you can follow along with this lesson online and then do our assignment. Now that assignment, I took that image and I uploaded that into Classkick, and then you're able to use all of those tools and features in Classkick to be able to answer those various problems. All of you seem like you guys did an amazing job. I got to say that it was kind of fun to see some of you guys using the pen tool and some using text box, and even a few of you guys were using the audio feature. All of those are perfectly fine by me. That is probably going to be the easiest way for me to push out practice work to you guys. So what you need to know is when you're finished with your Classkick assignment, you just got to go into your Google Classroom and turn it in. You just hit turn in, and I actually see what you're doing in Classkick. Classkick is kind of a live running application, and so even as you're in there working, I can be in there and I can see you working and I can see what you're getting done. Now, the only thing that I saw that some of you guys struggled with is if I put in a document and there's 2 pages. Some of you guys were finishing 1 page and then you didn't get back and finish the 2nd page. So there should be a little arrow right at the very top of the screen. I need you guys to make sure that you arrow over and you attempt every page. That was just with our pre-test. I don't know that I'll ever assign anything longer than a page, but just so you know, be aware of that and take a look and make sure you've attempted everything before you submit it to me. Again, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything that you want to discuss with me, please feel free to get a hold of me, email. That is the quickest way for me to touch base with you and then to return information right back to you as well. Okay, so I'm ready to get into today's lesson. So we're going to start off, and if you guys kind of peek like right behind me here, I am at a whiteboard. And so this whiteboard is what I'm going to use when I'm teaching you guys whatever our concept is for today. You guys are in my office, which is absolutely amazing. And I got some little flamingo lights behind us that'll keep us kind of entertained and looking sparkly and fun for the day. But this whiteboard was just something that I had, so it's going to work for now. It's a great way for me to model problems. So what our first lesson is going to be is you guys are actually going to begin, and some of this might be a little bit of a review for you. So that's okay. It's always good to go back and review math concepts. So we're going to start off, and the very first topic that I want to review and refresh your memory on is how do we convert a fraction to a decimal? So what we're going to do is we're going to be starting off, and I'm going to give you guys something that is in fraction format. And we want to take that fraction, and I want you guys to be able to convert that over to a decimal. So how does that work, and what is the procedure that I go through to convert the format of these? So I'm going to give you guys an example. We're going to start off with the fraction 2/5. So remember, our fraction has a numerator and our fraction has a denominator. So the top number is our numerator, and then our bottom number is our denominator. So when I refer to what denominator. So when I refer to the procedures that you guys are going to follow, I'm going to talk about the numerator and denominator accordingly so you know which number to apply the procedure to. So the numerator, every fraction is like a division problem. What's awesome about that is actually the way that the numbers are set up, it actually looks like divide. There's that slash with the two numbers up and below. Instead of having dots there, we got actual numbers above and below. So numerator and denominator, and this is what your procedure is. You are going to do the division. This is a division. There's a divide that's happening here. Your numerator is what's going to go underneath your division symbol. That is going to be your dividend. Your 5 is going to go on the outside. That is going to be your divisor. Now, if you guys remember, when you're looking at doing this division, I think you guys know that 5 will not go into 2. There's no way that you're going to be able to get 5 into 2 evenly. So you can put that decimal point right there, pull that decimal point straight up into your solution so that you can make sure that you really clearly see where that's going to belong in your answer. Remember that a 0 is a placeholder. So now we're going to look at this and we're going to go 5 into 20 instead of 5 into 2. So you're going to think to yourself, what times 5 makes 20? So you're going to give me the answer 4. So when I take 2/5 and I convert it over to a decimal, 2/5 starts out as a fraction, and then in decimal version, it is going to be 0.4. So what you're going to do when you're changing a fraction to a decimal is you are going to, the rule here is do the division. I would say the biggest mistake that I see kids make on this is they don't know what goes underneath and what goes on the outside. Your top number is always going to go underneath and your bottom number is always going to go on the outside. Numerator underneath, denominator on the outside. Okay, so that's going to be your guys' first set of problems that you're going to have on today's worksheet. I want you guys to attempt a couple of those, practice how do we convert a fraction to a decimal. All right, after you've done those problems, we're going to go reverse. You guys are then going to take and you guys are going to be giving a decimal, and we're going to write that in fraction form. So how do we convert the other way around? So what if I was to give you guys a decimal and we had to go back and we had to write that as a fraction? So we're going to start off with this decimal. Remember that often in math, we'll put a 0 in front of the decimal just to be a placeholder for us. So that when we're lining numbers up, we understand that this is where our decimal point is, and we got something that's sitting there, sort of like having a 1 in a denominator of a fraction. Like when you got a whole number, you can write 5 as 5 over 1 as a fraction. That 1 can be like a little placeholder. So this 0 is just sitting there as a placeholder. So really, we're looking at 0.67. 0.67, we're writing that as a fraction. Okay, so the best way to do this is and what I'll tell all my students to do is actually read the number properly. What I mean by that is when I look at this number, 0.67 is not being read properly. In math terms, we don't ever say the point. We don't say the 0. We actually look at this and we look at the place value and we read this like a full number. So what I want to do is I want to look at this, and you guys probably remember that this was like our tenths position, and then we had a hundredths position. So when I actually read this properly, I'm going to say 67 hundredths. As a fraction, it is going to look like that. 67 hundredths. Okay, from here, what you guys are going to want to do is you want to look at your fraction and you want to reduce it if possible. Well, I'm going to look at this fraction and I'm going to say this one I know is odd, this one is even, so I know 2 is not going to work, 3 is not going to work in this one, 4 is not going to work. 67 doesn't have very many factors, and so I believe this one was reduced, but let's say that I turned it over and it was 0.66. Now that's going to be very different. That one's going to read as 66 hundredths. And right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that they're both even. So I'm going to be able to reduce at least one step. I'm going to be able to take this one down. I'm going to be able to make it 33 over 50 because 2 goes into here. If I divide 66 by 2, it's 33. And if I divide 100 by 2, I get 50. So this would be the answer that I was looking for, is the reduced form. I want to make sure that you guys get all the way down to simplest form with these. So read the number properly, remember your place value. And if you guys struggle with place value, I would go look up a place value chart or let me know and I can send you a place value chart. I'm not going to go back and review that. I think that's something that you guys have probably started out with all your math classes for years. So I think you can really quickly refer to something with that. I do want to show you, however, what if we get a decimal where we have a whole number piece? If we have a decimal with a whole number in the front, like this one, 1.2, now remember that is not how I read that properly. If I was going to read this, I have like 1, so it's like a whole, 1 whole, and remember that this is in the tenths place, so this would be 2/10. So the way I would write that one is I would have the 1 whole, and then I would do 2/10. And I would hope that you guys would recognize real quickly, just looking at my 1 and 2/10, that the 2/10 can be reduced. 2 is going to go into both of those. So I'm going to divide the top by 2 and I'm going to divide the bottom by 2. Keep your 1 in the front because that's still this beginning part of your decimal. You have 1 whole. And then when I divide 2 by 2, I'm going to get 1. And when I divide 10 by 2, I'm going to get 5. So 1.2 is the same thing as 1 1/5. Don't forget how to do that when it comes to having a whole number at the very beginning. Okay, so that's going to be your guys' next set of problems that you guys are going to attempt and that you guys are going to try. After you guys do that, I want to real quickly remind you guys about squares and square roots. I noticed on our pretest it looked like most of you guys did pretty well with that, so I don't think that I got to spend a ton of time with this. I'm going to just real quickly refresh your memory and then give you guys some practice problems. But I want you guys to remember, like, you can take any number, so 2, and when you put a little 2 at the very top, that's like your exponent. So this is my exponent. My exponent's going to tell, this one down here is my base. My base tells me what to multiply. My exponent tells me how many times. So what I'm going to do with this one, and 2 to the second power is kind of a hard one, but I'll show you some more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my base, 2, and it tells me that I got to multiply it 2 times. So 2 times 2 is 4. So 2 squared is going to be 4. Okay, so let's say do 4 squared. Base tells me what to multiply. The exponent tells me how many times to multiply it. So it is not 4 times 2. 4 squared is not 8. 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay, so that you guys got, and remember, like with exponents, you guys could have 5 to the third power. 5 to the third power is 5 times 5 times 5. So you got 5 times 5, which is 25. And we're going to multiply that by 5 again, so we're going to get 125. So you guys, it's not 5 times 3, which is 15. Your base is what you multiply. Your exponent's how many times you guys multiply it. So we have this square thing, and remember that squares and square roots undo each other. So if you guys got 4 squared is 16, if I was going to work my way backwards, a square root would look like this, 16, and then I would have that little square root symbol. The square root of 16 is, you're thinking to yourself, what times what? So I got to think to myself, there's something times something that's going to equal 16. Oh, we just did that over here. 4 times 4 gave me 16. So these are like opposites of each other. Squaring something and square rooting something are directly opposite. That's how you would undo. You undo a square with a square root. You undo a square root with a square. So let's say that I was, and I'm going to go back, and let's say that I was going to practice a little bit more with, I want to look at like how they set this up actually on your guys's worksheet. Your guys' worksheet actually looks a little bit like this. They did give you guys some equations. And I want you guys to remember that an equation is always going to have an equal sign in it. On my pretest, I noticed that some of you guys were a little bit worried about that word expression. Expression and equation are very different. Expression does not have an equal sign in it. Equation, think equal. Equal, so it's going to have an equal sign in it. They are going to give you guys an equation. The equation is x squared equals 144. So here I am. I got an equal sign. And what your goal is to figure out what's this x. So remember, you're thinking to yourself like, what times what? So this is your base. You're multiplying the base by itself to get 144. So you want to think to yourself, like, there's something times something that equals 144. Now, some people can do this in their heads. Some people understand how to put numbers together and multiply them together real quickly. If you struggle, like what I just said, a square root will undo a square. So when you're in an equation, you want to get this x all by itself so it does not have that squared symbol by it. You would square root. Now remember, what I do to one side, you have to think about equation. It's like a balance. I can't square root one side and not square root the other side. I have to keep them equal at all times. So whatever I do over here, as long as I do it on the other side, I'm still equal. So I square root that side, I'm gonna have to square root this side. The square root and the square are gonna undo each other. That's gonna give me just my x that I'm searching for. I just want the plain x. I want to know what that number is. Square root of 144. You're thinking to yourself, what times what equals 144? So you got a calculator that is sometimes helpful for that, and that's totally fine by me. I do know that 12 times 12 is 144. So in this case, 12 squared, so when I'm taking 12 squared, that's equaling 144. Hey, and I gotta say, some of you guys did this. I can tell you had an amazing math teacher where you guys went back and you checked. You subbed in your solution, in for the variable, in for the unknown, and you checked to make sure that it worked. Amazing. Thank you guys for going that extra step. So you guys are going to have a few problems that are going to look just like that on your guys' worksheet that I'm going to give you guys. There's a few of them that are the square roots and a few of them that are the squares. Okay, then what I want you guys to do, after you listen to this and before you guys go on to your guys' worksheet, I posted a Nearpod video lesson. There are questions in the Nearpod lesson. So I need you guys to go and open up that Nearpod lesson, and I want you guys to go through it and answer the questions. Anything that you do for me, I can go in and I can see what you've done. So I'm going to be checking for completion on that. I want you to do that Nearpod lesson, and you're going to be asked about the difference between rational and irrational numbers. So take a second to check that out. And then I want you to hop on in, and I want you guys to take a look at your guys' worksheet that I'm giving you. Please, please, please read the directions. Oftentimes I won't assign you guys the entire worksheet. I'll eliminate a few problems out of there that I think might not be very applicable or beneficial for us. So make sure you read so that you know if you're completing the entire thing or just certain problems. As always, feel free to shoot me any questions that you guys have. During your block today, you guys need to know that I'm with a 5th period class, so I'm going to do my very best to touch base and see how you guys are all doing. I will be running GoGuardian, and GoGuardian runs reports for me and tells me where you guys spent your time and what you guys did today. So I would expect that you spent some time watching my video. I will expect that you guys watched your Nearpod video. I will expect that you guys spent some time working on your guys' homework. I will be scheduling another Zoom session with you guys for Thursday. We're going to do another quick, just kind of touching base, seeing how we're doing, and I may be pushing out another lesson at that point. So I kind of want to keep the ball rolling so that we can keep up with what's happening actually in building right now. So like always, let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you guys so much for your attention with everything. Have a super, super, super day. Bye.